Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we are here today to learn Fusion 360 or die trying. Okay, why am I giving this video such a provocative title? Well, that's because probably I have been trying to learn AutoCAD for the last 20 years, one version or another of AutoCAD, and I've always just spent a day at it, hit a brick wall, given up, decided that I would just not be a mechanical designer and I would just go to Thingiverse and download things to print to the 3D printer. But finally, today is the day that we are going to not give up. We are either going to learn how to use Fusion 360 or we are going to die trying. No more giving up. Okay. So first of all, why is Fusion 360 so hard? And if you've ended up here, you're probably like me. I mean, some people just fly through it and it's like a guy up there, a conductor conducting the orchestra. They're just making Fusion 360 or AutoCAD sing and dance, and it don't sing and it don't dance for you. Well, I'm going to help you get past that. So let's just start by kind of looking at the 4 reasons that I figured out that AutoCAD is hard or Fusion 360 is hard, or why you struggle or why it doesn't do what you want it to. And the first thing is that you're just really not mindful of the palette, okay? Because we are used to, let's say, Microsoft products, and in Microsoft products, it infers what you want to do. So if you just move the mouse around, you can just draw, and it knows that you want to draw, or you can select something by clicking on it. It knows you want to select it, or if you go to the corner, it knows that you want to resize, or it knows that you want to move it around. So you just sort of move your mouse around and click, and Microsoft products do what you want them to do. Not so with AutoCAD or with Fusion 360, because Fusion 360 can do so many things. You have to sort of tell it what to do and then do it. So the first key to success in Fusion 360 is be mindful of your ribbon. If you want to select something, come up and click on the select button, then come down and click what you want to select. So tell it what you're going to do and then do it. So select, choose select on the palette, then click on what you want to select, or choose move on the palette, then show what you want to move, or choose resize and then show what you're going to resize. And so the first key to success in Fusion 360 is to be very mindful and deliberate with the palette, what you're going to do, and then do it. So things that might be a 1-step process in a Microsoft product might be a 3-step process. It's okay because it'll get good and you'll be fast at it, but you have to be mindful of that. Okay. The second reason that we fail on Fusion 360 is we jump into 3D objects before we have really mastered sketching. So the second key to being successful in Fusion 360 is to master the sketching. If you can make things sing and dance at the 2-dimensional level, the 3-dimensional part of it is really pretty easy, but it's like we jump right in and start making 3D objects before we really are mindful of understanding how the sketches work. Master the sketching before you go to 3D objects. The third reason that we struggle with Fusion 360 and we give up and go somewhere else, try to do something else, is that we're not precise in our sketching with 2 things: dimension and position. So just like I say, you're mindful of the palette, tell it what you're going to do and then do it. Same thing, when you create an object, set the dimensions and set the position mindfully, deliberately. Don't just go out there and just kind of drag and draw a box. If you're going to create a rectangle, say, okay, it's going to start at a certain position that I'm going to specifically specify with numbers, and then it's going to be a specific dimension. Okay, those are 3 of the really big ones. We're not mindful of the palette. We jump into 3D objects before we really understand sketching. And then thirdly, we're not precise with our dimensions and placement. We just go in there like a wild man or a wild woman drawing things without being mindful of being very specific of where they need to be and what size they need to be. And finally, and this might be the biggest one because it's something that is just not at all in our Microsoft products, like drawing something in PowerPoint or various programs like that, is that in Fusion 360 we have to understand the concept of constraints. Okay, now at first constraints are going to be a frustration because constraints mean that things don't do what you want them to do. So at first you're just going to kind of be learning to live with constraints, but then what you're going to learn is constraints are your friend. Constraints are what allow you to do really great things in Fusion 360. So don't be afraid of constraints. Don't avoid constraints, but really, really early on in the early lessons, we've got to learn about constraints. Because one of the frustrations with Fusion 360 is you'll go in and draw a box, and then you'll come back in a minute and you'll want to move the box, and the box won't move. Well, how does it say to move the box? Well, you select it, right-click, tell it to move, and you do it, and it won't move. Well, the reason is when you draw things, a lot of times Fusion 360 will put constraints on there, and the constraints are good things, but those constraints then prevent you from doing things later that you want to do. So the simple thing, the thing that will make your life so easy in Fusion 360 is in a very early lesson, we're going to learn about constraints. If you will learn in the 2D, in the sketch mode, to do position and dimension, and then understand constraints, you're going to think that Fusion 360 is the greatest thing that ever happened. You're going to love it. You're going to make it sing and dance, but you've got to do those types of things. Okay, other thing you got to think about is a lot of reasons people avoid Fusion 360 is it's a very expensive program. Well, Google Fusion 360 for education or students or home hobbyists, and what you'll find is there appears, I am not a lawyer, but there appears to be great generosity from Autodesk in using Fusion 360 for free for if you're a student or if you're a home hobbyist. And you need to read the license and you need to understand, but it seems to me to be saying that if you're just a guy working on things for a Raspberry Pi box or your home projects, you can download it and use it for free. Now, if you were going to go start manufacturing those and start a Kickstarter campaign and you're going to start a little company, you got to really sharpen the pencil and make sure that you're using it legally. But for us homemakers and home enthusiasts and people in like students, there appears to be a very, very generous ability to use this full feature program for free. Okay, enough said. So you need to go download, search on student, if you're a student, student download of Fusion 360 for students, and kind of get that set up. By this point, you know enough, I don't have to step you through that. Okay, so what I am going to do now is I'm going to get out of your way. This is actually in the background here, one of my very first AutoCAD or Fusion 360 designs, and it has been successful because if you look back here, I am actually printing it out on the 3D printer and it is printing out beautifully. Now this is the thing that actually drove me, this is the structure that drove me out of SketchUp and made me realize that we needed to move to more sophisticated software, and that was trying to make these manifolds where you had curves intersecting curves, and in SketchUp that just would not work. And particularly if you look at this little feature here, what this is this is an M&M shaped cutout in a cylinder, and what that would just not, I could not make that work in SketchUp. I could draw it, but I could not get a solid object that could be printed on a 3D printer, and so that is when I gave up. All right, so let's get started. Go away, download the program, pause this, come back, and we are going to learn Fusion 360, or we are going to die trying. Okay, when you open up 360, you should see something that's just a blank sheet of paper, and what you should do is you should come up. I'm going to go slowly. You see this little sheet of paper, you need to come up and you need to say new design. So you come up here, select new design, and boom, I have a new design. Now the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to learn to sketch, and in this first lesson we're going to sketch some simple things, and then next week we're going to come back and in the next lesson we're going to come back and sketch and then extrude. But we're not going to extrude today. Why? Because we fail because we don't really understand things at the sketch level. So we're going to sketch today, Then in the next lesson, we're going to sketch and extrude, and then we're going to come back and sketch some more, and then we're going to sketch and extrude, and then we're going to sketch some more. And so we'll sort of be learning about sketching, then extrude, then learning more about sketching and extrude. And if you'll just go through these projects with me, man, you'll be making this thing sing and dance in no time at all. Okay, so what's the first thing that we're going to do? We're going to sketch, which means we need to work with these tools here that are under sketch. So I'm going to click on that, and just click on it and let up, and then I'm going to come down. I want a rectangle, and then I want a 2-point rectangle. That's going to be from one corner to another. The first thing that it pops up here is it wants to know what plane do I want to work on. Okay, what plane do I want to work on, because it's going to take me to that flat plane for sketching. So you see right now we got a 3D view. Well, what I want is, you can see up here that the red blue axis is the XZ axis. I like to go all the way back, sort of old school, right? I like to sketch on the XY plane. Okay, I like to sketch on the XY plane, and that would be the red-green plane. So that would be this plane right here, red, green, and boom, now it's giving me a flat sheet of graph paper. Okay, what I am going to give you, and I will start you through this, and then it will be your assignment to complete it. I would like to create a 3x3 array of rectangles. Those rectangles need to be 50 millimeters by 25 millimeters. Okay, 50 millimeters by 25 millimeters, and then there needs to be a 25 millimeter spacing between them. Okay, so let's just jump in and do that. So I have what's selected. I have the rectangle tool selected. I need to show it where I want to start. So I come down close to the origin, I let it snap, I click once, and then bring it out, and I just click anywhere. Don't try to get it perfect, just click anywhere. Okay, now I have a rectangle that is in the right position, because I started at the origin, but it's the wrong size. Now, how do I make it the right size? I just click on D. I can click on D, or I can come up here and come down to sketch dimension. Because I'm doing so much dimensioning, I just like to click D. So I'm going to click D, and now I bring my cursor to this line. You see how when I point at the line it lights up? I just click on it. Now I scoot away from it, and you see what this is this is just showing me a dimension, and I can see that I drew it at 56, but I want to just get the dimension out of the way, and you see I can put that number where you want it, kind of make it neat, and I click. Now I can enter the dimension, 50, enter. Boom. What have I done? I've drawn a rectangle. It's in the right position, and one dimension is right. How do I get the other dimension? Well, I hit D again. I come down. I click on this. I pull out. I click again. And what does it want me to enter? The dimension 25. Enter. Boom. I have created a rectangle in Sketch. The rectangle is deliberate. It is the right dimension, and it is in the right position. Now I need to do the next one. What do I want? I want to give myself a point to build from. Guys, do this. This is the key. This is one of the keys to being successful in Fusion 360. Always give yourself a deliberate point to draw from. How do I do that? Well, I click L for line. L for line. I guess I could come up to Sketch, and I could come down to line as well, or you can just click the L key for line. I come to the origin, and then I come out some distance with that line, and I click again. Okay, now what do? I dimension that line. So I click D for dimension. I click on it, I come down. Now what was the gap that I wanted? The gap was 25. So if it's 50 the box, 25 the gap, how long should this line be? 75. Okay, boom. That's saying I should start right here. Okay, and I'm going to move this over and make it a little neater. So this is the point that I should start from. Now, one other thing, there's two types of lines. There's lines that are part of your drawing, and there are lines that are just guidance lines or alignment lines. Not physical options, just measurements. I want this to be a measurement line, so I come out here, I I come here, and let me escape. So you see, I had a tool, I still had that dimension tool, so I click escape to get out of that because I'm not dimensioning. And then I left mouse click on it. No, that's a right mouse click, man. That's a right mouse click. Sorry for that confusion. Okay, I right mouse click on it and I say that I want it to be nominal construction. So what that did is that made that a dotted line, which means that it's just for the purpose of alignment or giving me a place to build from. Now I want to do my next rectangle. What do? I click R for rectangle. I come and snap to this point, I come out, I draw one. Now what do? I dimension. So I click D, all right, and I come here, come up. How big should that be? It should be 50, okay. Oops, now look, I'm getting out of the way. So now we're getting to another thing that you've got to know how to do in SketchUp. You've got to know how to move around. You've got to know how to navigate. And my drawing is going off the board. There's all types of fancy clickety ways to do it, but we're going to do it old school, so it always works. We'll get fancier later. What do I want to do? I want to move this over. I come down here and I get the hand and I move it over. Now the other thing, use the mouse scroll wheel and you can zoom in and you can zoom out by turning the scroll wheel. If you want to move, you get the hand. If you want to scroll in from anywhere, you just use this. Now you can also orbit. You can get the orbit tool and you see how I can move around a little bit with the orbit. Now you want to be flat on, right? You really want to be flat on when you're designing in 3D. Oh man, how do I get back to flat on? I've moved things up. Well, you come over here and you just click top. Or you might be on another plane. You see how I'm just flipping that view around. Now I'm looking up from the bottom and I come back from the top. So lesson learned here, right? In sketching, we're learning how to be experts. One of the frustrations is how to navigate. How do we navigate? We zoom in and out with the scroll wheel. We move with the hand. Okay, we move with the hand. And then we orbit with the orbit tool. And then if we ever get lost, we can come back to our little cube. The cube is our friend, and we can get where we want to be. Uh-oh, look, this is not the right orientation. Well, I can say, flip it around like that. Okay, I'm back. Let me show you another trick. Like, let's say that we're over here. If you're good with the zoom, you can actually move it by zooming. So I come over here, and it's going to zoom around this point. So you see it pulls the stuff in, and then I zoom in over here. Okay, so you see by choosing where I zoom in and out, you can actually use the zoom tool and not have to go down and deliberately get the hand tool. Okay, so now what was the dimension that we wanted? We wanted another one. Okay, so this time what we're going to do is we are going to come, instead of from the origin out 200 or whatever it would be, 50, 50, 25 plus 25, 100, or so 200 or so, what we're going to do is we're just going to come 25 over from this point. So I'm going to say line, L for line. I click here. Make sure that you're staying. Do you see how it wants to kind of snap to the grid? Make sure that you're snapped here. And then I click again. And now what do? Dimension. So D for dimension. I click this. I come down. This dimension I want to be what? 25. Okay. Now this is a physical line. I don't want a physical line. What kind of line do I want? I want a construction line. Now if I come up here and right mouse click on it, it's not giving me construction line. Why? Because I am still in dimension mode. I am still in dimension mode, so I click escape to get out of dimension mode. How else could I get out of dimension mode? Well, I could come up here and I could say select. Now I'm in select mode. Okay, so one of the frustrations is you try to do something and it doesn't do what you want it to because you're not being mindful of the palette. Okay, look at this. I want to make this a different type of line. I right mouse click, it's not there. Why? Because I need to first tell it select. Then I come and tell it select. Then I right mouse click, and then I come down and say it's a construction line. Okay, so remember, mindful of the palette. If you're having trouble, you're probably stuck in a palette. Like let me also show you, like if I come here with this tool and I rotate and then I come down here and right mouse click, it's not there. Why? because I'm in the orbit mode. How can I get out of that? Well, probably I can hit escape. That's one way. Another way, I could right mouse click and just click OK, and I'm out of it. Or if I'm in orbit mode, I could come up here and say select. So there's a lot of ways to get out of a tool that you're sort of still in, but you got to do it. Okay, so we're going to come back to the top. All right, and now we are going to give ourselves room to draw here. So what do I want? R for rectangle. I'm going to click here. I'm going to come here. Now what do I do? D for dimension. I come here. How big do we want this? We want it 50. Enter. This, how big do we want it? We want it 25. Okay, so now we have drawn 3 rectangles. No, we didn't make a bicycle gear chain. No, we didn't do that. But we're learning how to be deliberate in the sketching. And what have we learned so far in our sketching? We've learned about how to do dimensions, and we have learned how to do dimensions, and we have learned how to do position. For some reason, this dimension isn't here. I don't know why that did not stay there, but let me go in and put it. You guys might have caught that. I'm not sure what I did wrong as I was going through it. Okay, so we're deliberate about using our palette. We are deliberate about both position and dimension. And now we've got things that are going to be very, very useful. We've got things that we could actually come in and do something with, and we've got control of it because we know exactly where it is and we know exactly what size it is. Okay, your assignment is to go ahead and finish and make this a 3x3. Okay, should take you about another 5 minutes, and then what we will do, we will come back in lesson number 2, and we're going to design our first little 3D object. Okay, what we're going to make in the next lesson is a very handy glasses holder, and then we're going to 3D print it. Okay, guys, this is Paul McWhorter from TopTechBoy.com, and we are going to learn Fusion 360, or we are going to die trying. Paul McWhorter, TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.